The sounds resonating in this room are the cheers of one of the most active blocs in the U.S. electorate. Black women are nearly 60% of the voters in Black communities. Maybe that's why politicians spend so much time courting them.
They have been the foot soldiers of voting.
100 years ago, some women got the right to vote, but not Black women. It would take them another 45 years and come at their personal expense.
They were trying to put me in the back of a hearse, and I let them know I was not dead.
Though Black women have been a critical catalyst in securing voting rights for all people, their impact on the larger voter base is often overlooked. And yet, it hasn't deterred them from staying on the front lines to maintain voting rights. How important are Black women to the electorate?
We run the show, boo.
Hey fam, I'm Imayan, and I hit the road before the U.S.'s coronavirus outbreak to discover the role Black women play in the electorate, the voter suppression challenges they face, and why the centennial anniversary of women's suffrage doesn't mean what you think.
You matter. If you're thinking about not voting today, make a different decision.
I'm riding through North Carolina on what's known as the blackest bus in America.
My vote matters.
Their vote matters.
After the beat, once you back that bus when you back that bus. The Black Voters Matters bus is eagerly weaving its way through narrow lanes in the hopes of galvanizing voters. And the carriage is fueled by the power of Black women trying to ignite a community.
We are doing our one-day Super Tuesday bus tour. So excited.
Why are you so excited?
Because it's a bus tour.
This tour is what democracy looks like to activist Danielle Brown.
I do this work because it's essential to rural areas, to where we live. I come from a rural area. I know what it's like to have people come visit your home every 4 years and saturate your town and become just simply a number.
For Brown and her colleagues, emphasizing voters over voting is paramount.
We say Black voters matter because we put the power and the love behind the person and not necessarily the vote. It's not just about your vote, it's about you as a person.
Brown and the women alongside her are the latest part of a lineage of Black women in the U.S. organizing around voting rights.
So it's very important that we understand that Black women hold that power. They wouldn't be trying to take it away from us if we didn't.
Black women are less than 8% of the U.S. electorate, and yet their voter turnout surpassed all other races and genders in 2008 and in 2012. While history says women received voting rights a century ago,
On August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment becomes law.
reality knows Black women didn't secure the right to vote until 1965.
The Voting Rights Act is not just a victory for Black Americans. In the words of Martin Luther King, Jr., it enriches the lives of all Americans.
Even before that day, Black women and Black girls had spent decades putting their safety at risk for the cause. Linda Lowry was one of those young Black people, one bloody Sunday on March 7th, 1965.
Selma is still trying to heal from what happened on that bridge some 55 years ago.
I'm with Lowry at an event commemorating the anniversary of the march, a nonviolent protest where Black citizens demanded voting rights and law enforcement brutally halted their demonstration. On this day, hundreds gathered to remember the infamous civil rights movement in the Queen City of Alabama's Black Belt, a region concentrated with Black residents. Lowry says Black children were the backbone of the demonstration, in part because they didn't want their parents to lose their jobs for protesting.
It was the children of Selma that marched. That is how that happened. It was children on the bridge getting beat. I was 14. I received 35 stitches. And I don't remember seeing one of them The last thing I remember at that hospital is seeing this white doctor with this needle coming to my face.
Laurie was 14 in the late winter of 1965 and already had been jailed 9 times for her civil disobedience.
I didn't go to jail for hurting anybody. I didn't go to jail for taking anything from anybody. I went to jail for what I believed in.
It's clear Laurie's physical scars have healed better than her emotional wounds, especially when she tells me the story of how she nearly lost her younger sister during the chaos.
She looked like a rag doll. She looked like she was dead, and I froze. And every time I think about how I felt when I thought at 14 years old that I had gotten my sister killed, I get upset, and I don't apologize for it because I couldn't tell no story. For 40 years, I couldn't talk about the things that happened on the bridge and afterwards.
Now she tells and retells her story as many times as people want to hear it. She's excited to see the large crowd and wants the nation to remember the true toll of securing voting rights. What I see in this sea of red is a large crowd composed mostly of Black women, following in the literal footsteps a young Laurie treaded decades before, across a bridge named for a Confederate general, a bridge once stained with the blood of Laurie and others.
What does voter suppression look like for Black women?
It looks like standing in line for 5 hours. It looks like having to pay for an ID that may cost $30 or $40 and you don't have a car. It looks like if you are a senior and you never drove a car and you have to go get a license. Or it looks like someone who may be elderly and you have to have a birth certificate, but your birth certificate is actually a Bible that someone wrote your name in.
Pearl Dow is a political scientist who, in the last 5 years, has shifted her research to focus on Black women. She is also one of the women who marched in Selma this year.
We don't talk about Black women in the way that we should. Black women really understood the value of voting in a very unique way. They brought a very unique perspective and they had a very unique need. Black women at the time of the movement faced sexual violence, they faced racial and gender discrimination, and they saw voting as a means to protect themselves and to give themselves better opportunities.
We can get a better understanding of what Dow's referencing by watching this video. Pause. Now rewind. What you don't see in this 1920s era women's suffrage video is Black women, and it's not because they weren't there. In March of 1913, when thousands of women gathered for a suffrage procession in Washington, D.C., one day before Woodrow Wilson's inauguration, Black women were in step, including 22 founding members of Delta Sigma Theta, the same Black sorority filling Selma's streets.
It is important to know that Black women stood up for themselves, advocated for themselves in their communities at a time where it was extremely dangerous.
But why don't people know more about what Black women did for suffrage?
Well, the suffrage movement was very similar to society at the time. So many of the women who were leaders in the movement were also segregationists. And so they did not want the Black women to participate. They did not see a need to advocate for Black women to vote.
So despite being a pivotal part of suffrage, Black women's participation has been diminished in the nation's collective retelling of the movement. Dow says the intersectionality of race and gender means Black women have always occupied a particularly vulnerable space. Voter suppression for Black women also looks like restricting early voting, closing polling places, and voter roll purges, all of which limit turnout and disproportionately affect voters of color. The 5 states with the highest voter turnout rates in 2008 were Minnesota, Wisconsin, Maine, New Hampshire, and Colorado. Afterward, each introduced voter suppression laws. More than 30 states would introduce voter suppression legislation in 2011.
Black women turn out in very high numbers, and not only do they turn out, they also mobilize other people to register.
Say love, you say power, love, power, love, power.
power!
And back in North Carolina, the Black Voters Matter bus is transporting local college students to a polling place. This is a state where a judge blocked a voter ID law in December 2019. It's a place where a 2013 voter ID law was struck down because it targeted Black voters with, quote, almost surgical precision. It's a place whose Black voters contributed to Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden's stunning Super Tuesday rout. He carried a median of 58% of Black voters in those states.
People don't always recognize what our power looks like and what that actually, how we can motivate people, how we can talk to people, how we can move people and get them to where they need to be.
Hey fam, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I had such a blast doing this story. And if you want to know why I'm sitting next to this zebra and this zebra story, follow me on social, ask me in the comments, tell me what you want to see me do next, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.